Thoughts never spoken. Feelings. They're the prices. Truth. Thoughts. Truth's never voiced.
Welcome to the Unspoken Voices Podcast with Chuck Ellis, where the rubber meets the road and the unspoken finds its voice. This is more than a podcast. This is a space for the thoughts you've been holding in, the conversation you've been avoiding, the feelings you've been struggling to explain. It's a platform for honesty, a safe place for courage, and voice for those who haven't found theirs yet. Here we don't run from real life.
We face it.
Whether you're calling in to share your story or listening because you're not ready to speak yet, this platform was built for you. So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about
What's really going on? This is the Unspoken Voices Podcast.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to thank y'all for joining in on the Unspoken Voices Podcast with the one and only Chuck Ellis. As you can see, I'm trying to be innovative tonight. Doing a few things a little differently to figure out a next flow. Everything is about progression. But like I say, in keeping with everything, thank y'all for tuning in. It's been a great week. We're getting ready to start a new week. So blessings to everybody that's out here, that's family going through issues or not going through issues. It's alive and well. Thank y'all for coming. So, no matter what we do, starting off the podcast, what we always do. First and foremost, we got to give thanks to God for allowing us to be here. You got one more day to get it right. One more day to make those amends. One more day to try to live without no regrets on a good path. So I'd like to thank y'all for that. Next up, I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to the Loft Barber and Beauty Shop in Romeoville, Illinois. I thank them for tuning me up, doing everything, even though I didn't go there today or nothing like that, But they my peoples. Next up, I like my friends that's doing business, so it's a good thing for people in business. So I got to give a shout out to my man Ty at the Chi-Town Chill Grills. He can be jumping off making those custom-made grills for y'all. And for my other sponsors, I like to give y'all this. Hold on. That's y'all moment of silence, because y'all didn't say nothing to me to come on the show. All right, so look. I got a lot of things on my mind, a lot of things that I want to tap into. It's a lot of social issues going on, court cases. People are talking about black versus white versus black, different religions and things of that nature. And I think that education is beneficial for everyone to be able to understand what's going on. And that education comes from your past, your present, to help you deal with the present and future. So with that in mind, we've incorporated a new segment, a history segment, into the Unspoken Voices Podcast. And I have my local historian, a good friend of mine, Flomond Williams, to come on and enlighten us on a lot of issues, and historically speaking. He'll be on once a month. We'll have his segment. And I welcome y'all to ask questions in the comments. When you hear certain things, ask questions in the comments. Also, if it's something historically that you have a question about, feel free to reach out to the Unspoken Voices Podcast. That's info@theunspokenvoicespodcast.com. So, with all that being said, and not a lot of wasting time, because we don't waste time around here, because time is important. And I told you I had a new little format, a little doohickey to deal with. So, pardon us, pardon me, for a little bit of the doohickey. But I like to bring on my man, Flomond, and we're going to figure it out from there. Uh-oh.
What's up,
You know I'm short, you tall.
What's up?
Thank you, sir, for coming on. Look, I got to relinquish the throne, man. You go ahead and take your seat, man.
Take my seat, brother.
And let me get out your way.
All
All right, let's get down to it. Yeah, because it's gonna be a good one. You gotta drink some water with all the information we going over today.
Yes,
You know?
sir. Yes, sir.
So what we have up here is our historical context. And we want to dive into it, and I want to get some history facts from you, ask a few questions, get your input on a lot of issues.
Okay.
So, but before we get into that, man, you know, I know the people met you before,
Right.
but let them meet you again.
Okay, we can do that. Well, my name is Flomond Williams. I'm in my mid-50s. I live in suburban Chicagoland, more specifically Romeoville, Illinois. I've considered myself to be over the last 15 years a historian, not necessarily by choice, just wanting to learn different things just got me more into history, more specifically into African history and how our lives have been depicted in human history. So as I was diving into history, I've been like a magnet to it. I study daily, and it's just something that I'm just very adamant about and passionate. So it is my calling, and I just want to uplift others and give information.
Well, you know what? That's very notable. What is it, notable? You know, I'm not always politically correct when I be talking about things, but you know, I try to use some words. But now when we talk about history, and right now I think that it's very important for people to understand not just history, but understand where we come from.
Right.
Because there's a lot of lost individuals, and you get lost when you don't know where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the first things that everybody always thinks about is slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, and
Right.
that's where we come from. But I want you to give a little insight on what about before slavery? Did we just come from being slaves? Talk to me.
Well, of course not. And I think it's important as African people, African American people in the United States, to understand that our history did not begin with the Atlantic slave trade. We have been socialized and indoctrinated to believe that our history, or that we made no contributions to worldwide civilization whatsoever. And when that happens, it gives a people a negative view on themselves, more specifically, and it keeps us from, it gives us what I would call a stunted growth. And I just think it's important that we understand our history. All history is good history. All African history is good. All African American history is good. But I think it's important to understand where we came from before the slave trade.
Okay, so if we talk about before the slave trade, well, because you know, when we talk about slave trade, some people don't know about the slave trade. Some people just hear and say, hey, you know what? We were slaves and we not slaves no more. A lot of young kids, because a lot of history is being taken out to schools. So with that being said, how and when did Africans actually become slaves?
That's an excellent question. Well, before we became slaves, we were African people on the continent of Africa, and our history started specifically in Nile River Valley. And what happened was, and this is what I'm glad that we started here, because I think it's important to talk about history, talk about some recent history before we go back. So I guess I could say that when the slaves, when Africans became slaves, it was actually done when this is a Portugal Pope Nicholas V, he wrote a papal bull A papal bull is actually a document that's kind of like a constitution. And he wrote a papal bull in 1400s that said that African people did not possess a soul. We were soulless people. And by him saying that, that made it legal for all countries, starting with Portugal and pretty much every other country in the world that wanted slave labor, with the exception of Russia, to go into Africa and start taking these African people and putting them on boats and bringing them to the Americas, whether it be North America, in the Caribbean, more specifically in this country, Virginia, and transporting them down south to the Mississippi and Alabama area. Now, I say Pope because I want to make sure that is crystal clear to people. I said that the Pope did that, and that is that's problematic because we're talking about a religious individual that is over Catholicism, that said that these slaves don't possess a soul. They're like dogs, and in doing that, God will not punish us for enslaving somebody that's not human.
Man, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I want to make sure that I include the United States in some of the theories behind how different races and ethnicities look at us.
Right.
And when I say that is, in the Constitution, when it spoke about 2/3 of a human being,
right,
could that be part of the concept that you're speaking about now?
Well, that is the concept.
Okay.
But this is before that was even written. You know what I'm saying? So it was almost already being done. What is happening? It was being put in the process. What's going on now? So that was just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
And some people would say, well, y'all talk about slavery like it did, or it didn't exist instead. He said, but Africans was enslaving Africans.
That is true, and that started after the manipulation process, and it was a money grab, and you had it just caused a lot of division on the continent. So I would be remiss to not say that it didn't happen among African people as well, but the oppressive power structure is what essentially got the ball rolling.
The power, oppressive power. That's good. So now, because I'm trying to make sure that we relate everything to past and present,
Of course.
in order to, prepare individuals for what's coming tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you a minute to really, I'm gonna ask you this question, and maybe you can get some insight.
Okay.
What do we lose when our history begins with chains instead of our origin? And I'll say it again, because when young individuals now, they think about history beginning in slavery.
Right.
So, past and present day, what do we lose when our history begins in chains instead of the knowledge of its actual origin?
I would say that one of the first things that you lose is you lose your identity. Like I said before, if you think that your history begins with slavery, someone once told me that if you begin your history with slavery, the most that you can never become is a better slave, because your mindset begins with being in chains, with being enslaved. And that is, once again, that is problematic to our people. I believe that, well, actually I know, because we see it daily, and just what's happening in the world, that we have been put in a position to put ourselves in a subservient posture, and think of ourselves as less than. And what I want to do, or what I'm doing now, is just trying to put the information out there that we do have a rich history that's not talked about, that needs to be talked about. And there's plenty of people out here that's doing it. I mentioned that I'm a historian, but I'm not a historian by just being self-taught. I'm a student of many people, one of the first teachers that I've learned to study in history. I haven't met him personally, but Dr. Anthony T. Browder. He's one of the first people that I ever read his books, listening to lectures, and that's where my journey began with him and Dr. Runoko Rashidi, Dr. John Jackson, and a host of others. It's just so much knowledge that I've gained over the last 15 years that I'm able to pass information on from what I've learned, from what I studied myself. And like I said, I just think it's important to get this information out there. Now, before I go any further, I want to say something, because there's a lot that involves our African history and culture that concerns religion. So I want to just make this crystal clear from the beginning that I bring this information in love and peace. And I don't want to be a person that's contentious. And I understand that religion, and spirituality is a very intimate thing between people and the Creator. So I am not bringing information to be debated and to argue, but I really just want to give facts that I think a lot of us don't know about.
You know, and when you talk about slavery, you talk about African Americans or Africans in particular.
Right.
You can't speak about our ethnic group or race without including religion. We got old school religion.
Of course.
And with that comes a understanding or a misunderstanding about religion.
Right.
And a bigger topic is Christianity and African faith.
Okay. So
can you give us some insight on how and when the slaves become Christians, or make give me some historical context to make some things clear about people? And again, we're not disclaiming anybody's faith.
Right.
We're not being problematic or argumentative or even debating theory.
Right.
Right now, we're just trying to place down some facts to give people a base of their history.
Right. Well, that is once again, that's a good question to start at this point. I'll start here. A lot of our people, or people throughout the world, might not be too familiar with the Haitian Revolution. In the Haitian Revolution, which started around 1791, this is a time when Napoleon Bonaparte was a Frenchman who really was trying to conquer the world, if you want to put it in that context.
You talking about the little short guy that wore the funny hat?
Where we get the term the Napoleon syndrome, because he was a little guy.
The little guy like me.
Well, I don't think you were.
I'm short, but go ahead, man.
That I did. But yeah, he came into in Haiti, and Haiti actually had a different name at that time. It was called the Saint Domingue, and he came into the Saint Domingue, and his purpose was, with his armies, to strip the country of their resources, and he came in to battle, and he wanted to battle to get the resources, which at that time was sugarcane, coffee, and indigo. Those were very, very productive exports in the Saint Domingue at that time. But fortunately, they were not having it, and they fought, and they wanted to lead under the leadership of a man named Toussaint Louverture, and he was the general. He was an ex-slave, but he took the tone of a leader. And this country of the Saint Domingue, which later would become Haiti, they battled. And they battled the French, they battled the Spaniards, and they battled the British. And they defeated all three. And this went on from 1791 to about 1804. And after the battle was over and they eventually conceded, the Haitians still were given their freedom, but the oppressive world as we know it, they still refused to grant them their freedom unless they paid them reparations. So imagine that. They wanted them to pay reparations for their own freedom. So they charged them the tune of $150 million. And this is in the 1800s. So you know that's a lot of money. United States Citibank got involved and they wanted to finance the deal. So that's how the U.S. got involved. And they paid a debt which lasted, I want to say about 100 years, or a little over 100 years paying this debt back. And in doing that, they lost all of the money. They lost all of the money that the country had made, and it eventually bankrupted the country.
So now we talking about the Haitian Revolution.
Right.
We talking about reparations.
Mm-hmm.
The words that stick out to me more so is revolution.
Yes.
Like right now, we're almost in the midst of being able to call for a revolution here on American soil.
Of course.
Yet, in a lot of our politics and a lot of what we're seeing, just say take down in Florida, for instance, for the immigration of Haitians coming over.
Right.
They're being suppressed to not even become legal, I say citizens or immigrants or citizens of the United States. This history that you're telling us about, is this a substantial basis of some of what's happening right now?
It absolutely is. And in saying that, I'm going to go back a little bit, go back to the Haitian Revolution, because that's a build-up to something else. Now, as this was going on in Haiti, of course, in the United States, they got wind of what's going on down in Haiti. And I mean, technology is obviously not what it is today. They didn't have news channels, they didn't have social media, but the word quickly spread that there's an uprising going on in the country of the Saint Domingue, which is now Haiti. And these dark-skinned black people are uprising and fighting. What are we going to do in the United States with these slaves that we have to prevent them from uprising against us the way they're doing down in Haiti? There was a missionary in Georgia, a reverend. His name was C.C. Jones, Charles Colcock Jones. And upon hearing this, he wrote a book called The Religious Instruction of the Negro. And in this publication, it was given to all the slave masters on how can we incorporate these African slaves into Christianity. Up to that point, Africans were not Christians in this country, and they were fearful that these Africans were going to start to uprise against them. So they worked 7 days a week at that time. When they introduced this new process to get us into slavery, they started giving us Sundays off. So we start going from 7 days a week to 6 days a week. We could not read or write. So what they did was they took the smartest slave in each plantation, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they would teach them scriptures in the Bible that they would then preach to the slaves on the plantation. More specifically, slaves, obey your masters, for this is right, because you will go to heaven if you obey. Just take everything that you're given, and when you pass away, you will inherit the kingdom of God. So, once again, I'm going to go back to what I said originally. That was the Pope who wrote the papal bull to put African people on the boat to come over to these American countries. And it also was religious leaders, more specifically a pastor and a reverend in Georgia, who wrote a book to mandate that we could now become Christian people. Up to that point, like you mentioned earlier, we were considered 3/5 human. Mm-hmm. That's less than the dog.
Less than the dog.
Yep.
Man, and you know, it's you said something that I didn't even know.
What's that?
And we use this term all our life.
What is that?
Cold cock. Like, yo, I'm a cold cock you. Yes. Right? I'm gonna knock your brains, I'm gonna cold cock you, right? Mm-hmm. Not knowing that name or that instant actually came from oppression.
When we dive into history,
wow,
you would be surprised that a lot of terminology that we use on a day-to-day basis we use out of ignorance. And I'm not saying that to say that we're dumb. I'm saying that ignorant in not knowing that a lot of the things that we do and say were definitely put into practice. And what you just mentioned by that being someone's name, that is totally accurate.
Wow. Hey man, look, I thought I knew some things, but that's why I'm glad I brought you on, because you don't know unless you know.
Right.
And then when you do know, you're responsible for what you know to be able to do better. But now, well, I still want to. I'm definitely want to. I'm gonna dig into the revolution part about it, and the reason why I want to dig into it is because now today in our culture, things are being done in order to try to suppress the African American uprising and independence in this country. So this Haitian Revolution, is this why you would say is a crucial portion of history for all African Americans to understand and know?
Yes. I think it's important for everyone to know, but more specifically, I think it's definitely important for African Americans to know and African people throughout the whole diaspora, because that's a part of history that is, like you said, is definitely suppressed, and it's suppressed for a reason, because no one wants us to know, or anybody to know, that when African people come together and form a fist, then we can definitely connect a mighty blow. So it's important to show the media on television that Haiti is a third world country. There's nothing there but poor people that need us to come down and to save them. And in an instant, that is true. But they won't tell the history of why that country has become what it is.
Wow.
And let me add to that. We talked about, well, I talked a little bit about the slaves that were starting to uprise, and they were. We know about the Nat Turner story. That's what they were fearful of, that it was going to be a lot of that going on. And there were multiple uprisings that were going on like that. Nat Turner just happened to be the most famous of them all.
Nat Turner was a beast.
My type of guy.
Man, you wonder, is some of the politicians out Nat Turners, are we doing it in a different method?
Right.
So now we talk about, because we're going back and we go forward, we talk about things.
Right.
So why is it important to understand chronological order, or understand history in a chronological order? Why is this so important for us to do it now? Okay.
Well, chronological order is definitely telling a story of a people from a timeline perspective, so that it doesn't get twisted. A lot of times in history, let's say history in the United States just involving African American people. If someone said, give me some things that happened in African American history, and somebody sat here and said, oh, well, yeah, okay. So we had Reconstruction, we had Civil Rights Movement, we had slavery, President Obama became president, and they just named some things like that. That's all history, and it's all factual, but it's not done in an orderly timeline. So therefore, facts can get misconstrued, and certain situations cannot be taken in the way that they should. I'll give you an example. I'm a hip hop head. Grew up loving hip hop. One day I'm having a conversation with my daughter, and I'm just like, we listen to some type of rap song. And I'm like, so what you know about hip hop? Tell me what's the earliest you know of hip hop? Her answer to me was Tupac and Biggie. And I sat there for a minute, and of course I'm not gonna laugh because my daughter was born in 2010. So based on her history or what she knew, that was the earliest she could remember. That was 30 years ago? And she thought that Tupac and Biggie was the origins of hip hop. Now, what I had to explain to her was, my sweet child, there was plenty of things that happened in hip hop before Tupac and Biggie. We can talk LL Cool J. We can go back to Curtis Blow. We can go back to Africa Bambaataa. We can go back to Kool Herc. And us real hip hop heads know that hip hop started in the Bronx, more specifically 1520 Sedgwick Avenue.
Who they? Who they?
Well, I don't know. I thought I'm a hip hop head.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm gonna go to the root, the origin. So I say all that to say it was my job to inform and to teach my daughter from the origins in a timeline. So it didn't go from the shiny suit era of Puff Daddy and miss out on all the stuff before. So I don't want to tap on that too long, but I just wanted to put that in context.
Oh no, I like that because you got to know the history. But for a quick moment, man, I wanna give a shout out and thank my guy Tony, one of my Baltimore natives, Tony Q of the day, question of the day, Roberts. Thank you for tuning in and imparting us with your time to be a part of the podcast. I also want to welcome in Sharon Smith, watching from Erie, Pennsylvania. Man, we got people coming in from everywhere. I think Tony's down in Atlanta. Sharon is in Pennsylvania. We got people from Baltimore on. And, history is not limited to geographical location.
Of course not.
So, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. If you got questions, you got comments, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And we're gonna dig in. We're gonna dig in a little bit further, and I'm gonna ask you this question, and maybe you shine some light on what's happening.
Okay.
How does starting Black history with slavery affect how Black people see themselves?
Well, like I said earlier, it puts one or a people in a subservient posture to where we think less of ourselves and we look to our oppressor as being greater than. And it just automatically puts you in a state of being entrapped. It's like a person that kidnaps somebody and puts them in a basement and keeps them down there for an extended period of time. At some point, they lose themselves. They become reliant on everything that the kidnapper gives them. And then the scary part about that is then they come to a point where they need everything that kidnapper gives them, and the kidnapper gets to a point where he can leave the house. You don't even have to keep him chained no more, and they will not run away because they've been indoctrinated into that process so much. And ultimately, that's what's been done to us. And
now that you mentioned that, it's a few things. I really don't want to get off track,
right?
But I want to throw it out there because I think it's crucial for individuals to understand as we are coming up on Juneteenth,
of course,
right? And we have what you call integration, right? And we got segregation.
Yes.
That's two very different aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So in doing so, our community wanted to be integrated instead of separated and self-reliant.
Yes.
So with that said, and as you talk about the history, could it be possible that our culture, our community is somewhat suffering as a whole from what would be some type of systematic Stockholm syndrome?
I can see that, but I would say the country as a whole is not suffering.
Okay.
We as a people are suffering.
Okay, stand to be correct.
So what I think about that is, you're right. I mean, when we were trying to be integrated, and Dr. King said it best. He said upon his last day, he said he felt like he led his people into a burning fire. And I do not fault him for that. That was what we felt we needed to do at that particular time. Unfortunately, we have become too satisfied with being integrated, with being able to go to the same schools, with being able to live in neighborhoods that we once could not. And that has made us as a people very lax. Before that, we had to stick together. We all lived in the same communities, whether you were a janitor or whether you were a doctor. You might have lived on the same street with everybody else, and that has been lost. But I mean, I'm still optimistic that that'll change.
Okay, and you know what? As we talk about that, when we talk about African American and African history and resilience, let's dive. I want to dive a little bit. I want to go a little bit in the same direction, but in a different tune. We got to think the women, because the women held a very significant part in African history, African American history. So I know you mentioned a few things, but I wanted to get into the fact that you was talking about divine. It's called divine feminism.
Well, I think before I do that, I should go back.
All right.
and address some other things. I'll talk about the human timeline itself. Now I'm gonna speed through some things, but I'll put the information out there quick. Fortunately, in today's time, that's why we got a pause button and we got a rewind button. So if it's something that you can't, that you miss out on, just rewind it. Human history started in the Nile River Valley tens of thousands of years ago. Mitochondrial DNA substantiates that an African woman was the first mother on this planet, and she mothered people. And as these people began to, of African melanin, began to people the rest of the world, they went into Northeast Asia, they went into Europe, and they went into, they started people in the world. About 15,000 years, well, about 20,000 years ago, one specific group of these melanated people got trapped in what we now call the Ice Age. And in the Ice Age, they were trapped in a wall of ice, which was considered to be 1,000 miles long, 100 miles high, extreme temperatures to the point where they could not move. So they were trapped in this environment. In doing that, this lasted for about 1,000 years also. These melanated people, began to lose their melanin, and their pigmentation changed to what we now call Caucasians. At some point, the Ice Age was over. Now you can imagine what happened to these people when they were trapped. People that live in an environment with good temperatures, they pretty much have everything that they need to survive. They have food, they have shelter, and they pretty much just try to develop a relationship with the Creator because all their needs are met. But when these people got trapped in the ice, man, they lost everything. So now everything, the loving nature that they had now has turned them into like beast-like creatures. They steal, they take everything, they're raping each other. Some of them are eating each other, cannibalistic nature. But when they came out of that, they began to come back into the world. And they came back into the world with a different mindset, with a different spirit, with a different attitude. And when they encountered these African people again, now they come with an artillery prepared to take everything. And ultimately, that's what happened.
Man, yeah, you did do. Yeah, you was tough with that one. You was tough.
Now I said it quick, man. So it's a whole lot that I probably left out, but I just wanted to give the basis of it.
No, man, you was tough with that one, man. I swear. So do I go back to the divine?
We'll get to it.
Oh, we'll get to it.
Because I wanted to talk a little bit just about our spiritual context.
Okay. And when we talk about the spiritual context, mm-hmm. I also want to include, or maybe you can touch on the fact that, like, where African spiritual traditions misunderstood because someone else controlled the story. And I'm going to say that too, being misunderstood because someone else controls the story. Mm-hmm. And I'm on pause for just 1 second because I'll give you a little breather. And that's also a basis of the podcast. Mm-hmm. You know, I tell people, come on here, let's talk about your story. Don't let no one else dictate your narrative.
Right.
So that's historical and it has a lot of depth to it, even in this conversation.
Right.
So we're talking about spiritual traditions being misunderstood because someone else controls the story.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Well, that's exactly what happened, because our spiritual tradition did begin in the Nile River Valley. Now, like I said earlier, there were no religions, but people understood that there was some divine entity that created everything around them. What made the sky blue? What made the wind blow? What made the river flow? And at some point, they developed a relation, or conceived a relationship with the Creator. There was a time in history when and this is in the Nile Valley, when the original Holy Trinity was formed. And this was the Trinity of Asar, Aset, and Heru. This was the first family of Upper Kemet. Egypt, and I'm speaking of Egypt now. Egypt, the Sudan, Ethiopia, this was the Nile River Valley, and a few other places as well. Now, in Egypt, which was at that point, it was called Kemet, there was a king named Asar. He was the king of Upper and Lower Kemet. He married a young lady by the name of Aset, and what he did was they ruled that land. At some point, Asar went out to give his teachings to the rest of the country and throughout Africa abroad, and he left his wife in charge while he went out among the country. Now, he had a brother named Set, and his brother Set was jealous because he left his wife in charge while he left. Well, the brother Set found Asar. He killed his brother. He cut his brother into 14 pieces, and he left him dead. Aset went and found her husband. She found 13 of the 14 pieces that was missing, and she remembered his body. She wrapped his body, made him into a mummy form, and it took 70 days for her to go through this process. And the thing of the story is that up to that point, they were newlyweds and they had never consummated their marriage. Now, according to the story, Asar's spirit came and impregnated his virgin wife. 9 months later, on December the 25th, she gave birth to a son, which they named Heru. The brother Set, the evil brother Set, was still jealous, and now he was looking to kill the son. So Aset took Heru, and she took him and hid in the bulrushes to hide from his uncle. Eventually, when he grew up, he fought his uncle for about, I think it was over 50 years. He eventually fought his uncle, defeated his uncle. He was magically turned into a falcon. He flew into heaven, told his father his good news, and his father was resurrected. Now, the story that I'm telling you has a lot of elements that will one day come to other stories that we've heard about Holy Trinities. And I thought it was important that I put that out there, because there were a lot of traditions that we had as African people, like you said, that at some point were, I won't say taken away, but plagiarized.
Okay. So now you're saying that, and then, you know, I'm not gonna skip nothing in the interest of time, because I think it's a lot of information to cover, and we're gonna go back and forth. So now this is one thing I wanted to tap on. Can you honor your faith today while still learning the truth about where your people came from? Because and the reason why I say that is that we have a lot of African American individuals that have different faiths, they different beliefs and things like that.
Right.
And sometimes they tend to dispel education over their faith.
Right.
If I'm saying it correct.
That makes perfect total sense.
Okay, so my question, not even just to you, or this is something I probably want you to shine some light on, though, but it's a balance. But I want to send this out there to the chat, individuals out in the chat. this is a question. It's a question because I don't want you to get confused. Can you honor your faith today while still learning the truth about where your people came from?
Absolutely, you can. I think what is important is to understand that whatever religious belief that you have is that you learn, it's important to learn the origins of it, whatever it is, from a grassroots level, because that is the only way that you can make an educated decision on what you chose to believe in and to maximize your relationship with the Creator. I once had a conversation with somebody who we were kind of having this talk, and what he said to me was, "Hey man, I love being Black. I love learning history, and I always want to make an effort to study my history. But I really ain't got time to go to Africa. I'm trying to go to heaven." And I thought that was a very profound statement. And what I had to tell him was, brother, keep doing that, but understand that our ancestors showed us the way. And that's what we need to tap into. I think a lot of times we tend to put our religious identity in front of our ethnic identity, and that can be problematic.
Whoa, say that again, man, because that part right there, you said our religious identity in front of our ethnic identity. Right. But 1 second, I got a question just came in, and maybe we can answer this question from Mr. Roberts. Will African Americans ever be united, or will we continue to mentally be manipulated by a country that has shown us no love?
That's a great question, brother. I am optimistic that when we as African American people make a decision together, that we learn each other, not fight each other, and learn our history together. That's why the history is so important. Because if we really, really understood where we came from a country, from a continent of kings and queens, and I know that we've all heard that, but we've never really got the substance behind it. We were kings and queens, but how were we kings and queens? What did we do? What did we actually do? And that will lead us into the current time in society where we're at now, to where we can come together. So I know we see a lot of division, and understandably so, but we gotta understand that we have been systematically put in position to be divisive among each other.
And you know, the big thing in this question was, and this is what I see, you know, it says mentally be manipulated. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, that mental manipulation comes from not knowing your history, comes from not knowing the chronological order of how your culture was built up. Right. It comes from a lack of education. Mm-hmm. And I want to stress on everybody again that, you know, we're talking about traditions, rituals, customs, community practices, and we're not debating. We're not having an argument about religion. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to get some facts on where individuals need to understand their history to try to become better individuals and develop a stronger community. And with that, man, you know, I put it on the flyer. We got the flyer and we advertised it. What's the lion, man? Talk to me.
Can I talk about the feminine real quick?
Yes, you can talk. You know, I'm gonna tell you what you can talk about it. I've been waiting to hear about this, and they should be too.
Okay, so I wanted to stress the importance of in current society, there is a tendency to undermine the woman's role. In African culture, ancient African culture, there were female pharaohs. There was no woman beneath the man. Man and woman was equal. More specifically, there was a rule in Africa that was known as the 42 admonitions of Ma'at. Ma'at was a figure. It was a woman. She was the first person in human history that we know of to have wings, and she also was a black woman. So there were 42 admonitions that when one passed on and to go into the afterlife, they had to recite these 42 admonitions to be judged, whether they would go to heaven or go to another place. Some of these admonitions was, I have not stolen, I have not robbed, I have not committed adultery, I have not spoken ill against God, so on, etc., etc. I won't name them all, but there were 42. If you hear that, those were admonitions that were later constructed into 10 Commandments. But these were what African people recited while they were when they got judged. And there was a distinct difference between an admonition, a declaration, as opposed to a commandment. When you make a declaration, you say, I have not, confessing that you have not done these things. But when we go into another place, these people had to be commanded what not to do, because they had lost their spiritual systems. So they had to be told, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that in ancient culture, that women were had a very prominent role in history. And over time, in Western civilization, we see that the role of the woman is still very powerful, but it's kind of in a submissive role. When at that time, they said that man and women were ruled together. The man was considered the symbol of power. The woman was considered to be the source of power. And I think that's important for women to know. I think that's important for men to know. So for us men, that should put us in a stance that we will want to love our women more, that we want to cherish our women more, that we want to protect our women more, and that we value them more. And also, it should help women to understand that they should value themselves more, and that they should treat each other better, and understand that their role is very significant in history.
Man, you know what? That's deep. That's deep. And you know, in listening to you say that, can you say it again?
I say it daily.
You know,
I think it's important that we value the woman.
And not just that. When you said the woman is the source of power,
yes,
and the man is
the symbol of power. Think of nowadays, and I don't want to pick on anything, but let's just call a spade a spade. Most of us go to church, and when we go to church, we see men in the pulpit. And men are the symbol of power in religious systems. However, when we look at the same system, it's normally the woman that keeps the church running. In the household, I know in my household, when my child or children come to me and they say, hey, daddy, can we do this? Can we do that? What's your mama think? Right. And it's not because I have not relinquished anything. I am the symbol of power, but I understand my woman's value in the home. So yeah, I just think that we need to make sure that we are uplifting our women. And in ancient times, that's what it was. If you disrespected your mother, that was one of the worst things in life that you could do. You would be stoned and killed for disrespecting a woman.
Well, I'm not gonna disrespect my mom. My mother like 4'2", and if I disrespect her, she gonna slap me down till I'm like 1'6". So you know, you know what I mean. That's one thing that's just definitely not going to happen. She's a tough cookie to crack. But yeah, man, I just wanted you to repeat that because it resonated with me. And right now, before we go a little bit further, I want to just tap in real quick to Mr. Kenny Ebron.
Okay.
He said, "Amen. How do you know where you are going if you don't know where you've been?" For sure. And that's why this segment and this episode of the podcast is becoming essential, because even when I talk about my life and when I get into my life in different segments, I was lost and I was running wild on the streets, you know, toting guns and doing things like that until I started finding this history. So I'm gonna get into that and get into, you know, how those things can change a person internally, externally, the whole 9 through. You know your self-worth, you start being worth more.
Right.
So I can appreciate the element of history being in tune to us and to the audience as well. Hey man, you're right. I'm gonna stop playing with you for now. But you know, no pun intended. I apologize. I know you're more than 4'2". I get it. All right. So man, let's get into the symbol of power we're talking about.
Speaking of the lion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll say it like this. In the United States, for me, growing up, have you ever been to the circus?
Several times.
Okay, great.
I don't like clowns though.
Okay, me either.
Okay.
So let's talk about the circus. We go to Barnum, Bailey, Ringling Brothers, and we go to these circuses. There's a lot of things going on, but there's one act in particular that I have always found to be profound. When we go to a circus, we are enamored by watching a little man, like Napoleon size, as a ringmaster, and what he can do is make this lion do tricks. The lion comes out running around, and this ringmaster can make this lion jump through hoops, roll over, play dead, and do all these acts that one would find to be entertaining, somewhat astounding to watch this lion do that, because we consider a lion to be one of the greatest creatures on earth. So the question is, how did this ringmaster get this lion to do these tricks? Did he go into the jungles of Africa and take this 800-pound beast of an animal, put it in a cage, bring it to the United States, take him to the circus and say, here, lion, this is what you about to do now. You about to jump through hoops, roll over, and play dead? Absolutely not. What Barnum and Bailey did was they went to the jungles of Africa or some other place, and they took a small baby cub from the pride, and they brought that cub to the United States or wherever the circus is going on at, and they taught this cub from infant stage what they wanted it to do. Drink like this, jump through hoops, roll over, play dead. And at some point when that cub becomes a lion and they feel like he's developed enough, they put him in a circus to what we see today. We see the lion jumping through the hoops. The irony of that is if for some reason that lion ever got around another group of lions anywhere in the world and start jumping through hoops and rolling over and playing dead, the lions in a pride will probably look at this lion like, what the hell is wrong with you? We don't do that. We are the kings of the jungle. We run where we're owners of where we are. We don't jump through hoops. Matter of fact, they will probably kill the lion because they will probably consider him to be a cancer to the rest of the pride. So they will get rid of him because he has no use with the pride. So that brings me to my point. Brothers and sisters, in 2026, we are that lion. We have been stolen from where we originally come from. We have been brought to another part of the planet and taught, being socialized, indoctrinated with things that the oppressive power structure has wanted us to do. And over time, we have submitted and we do exactly what they have trained us to do. Now, it is important that we understand that we do have the power to come together like a real lion pride and get together and understand that we are lions. We are not cubs, and we have the power and ability to be able to control our own destiny. Now, I myself I consider myself a lion, and I will roar, roar, roar until the Creator calls me home. And I'm going to end with that.
Man, look, man.
My man.
My lion royal, brother. I thank you.
Yes,
I
sir.
thank you. I thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you came on and imparted that knowledge to us.
Man, always.
Man, let me
You take your seat.
I'm gonna take the seat real quick, and I wanna tell everybody, man, thank y'all for tuning in. This has just been a small piece of the puzzle that we here at the Unspoken Voices Podcast are trying to put together. I think that we have a lot to offer. We got a lot to learn. We have a lot to teach. I want to thank y'all for coming on. It's going to be a lot of things that we're doing in the future. Personally, I'm inviting everybody, and I'm going to say this now, personally, and I'm reaching out to everybody. In the next coming, I would say within the next coming 10 days, Mr. Charles E. Ellis, me, myself, I'm getting ready to release my next book. This book is entitled Manifested Fruition. It's not just a book of poetry. I am a poet, and you know it. It's not just a book of poetry. This is an epic memoir of life experience and life in general. Please stay tuned to the YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe, send questions and comments to inbox. You can find us on Facebook. Join us on Facebook. Hit the follow button on Facebook. Like, comment, subscribe on there. I will be posting up weekly everything that's coming up. I also have a TikTok channel, the Unspoken Voices Podcast on TikTok. Get us on TikTok. Get us on Instagram. How we build a community is we support one another in our endeavors, and we want to make our endeavors beneficial to everybody. So I want to thank y'all for the support. I encourage your assistance and help in future support of the podcast and the other projects that we have, especially, I'm telling y'all now, especially this new book that's getting ready to come out. Get your copy. I'll be putting up forms for not personalized copies. I'll be sending out personalized copies, signing them, and send them to you directly from me. I'll have the information shortly. And again, we'll be having, we got topics coming every week. We're dealing with mental health. We're dealing with faith. We're dealing with just regular conversations. If you have a conversation, you got a story, you got something you want to talk about, then hey, get in touch with me. And I'm telling you right now, and I'm sending a shout out to my man Tony. I'm coming, bro. We need to have a conversation. Why? Because you're a man with great history, and you've come a long way, and I'm giving you a shout out. Tony, a question of the day, Roberts, man. A lot of things in my life, I looked up a lot of people. And I told you this before personally, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I looked up to you for a lot of things. And I'm even doing this podcast, and you have one yourself. So we learn from each other. We build each other. And on that note, I'm going to let everybody go. Please tune back in where your voice can be heard and your life has purpose. This has been and will always be the Unspoken Voices Podcast with Chuck Ellis. Thank you very much for tuning in. And we out.
This has been the Unspoken Voices Podcast with Chuck Ellis, where silence is broken, truth is spoken, and healing begins. So remember, your voice matters, your pain has purpose, and your story deserves to be heard.
So until next time,
Stay connected,
stay encouraged,
and know that your voice is never alone.